Love Actually is one of them films that feel untouchable, a Christmas staple, a comfort watch, a film that people return to every single year because it promises a message that's warm and reassuring. The idea that love is everywhere. Richard Curtis's Love Actually insists that it's a film about love. But after stumbling upon it again this Christmas, you quickly realise that most of what you're seeing isn't love at all. What we see instead is lust mistaken for destiny. Power dynamics framed as romance, and characters supposedly falling for each other without even knowing one another. All wrapped up in Christmas music and sold back to us as a heartwarming rom-com. This isn't a video about hating Love Actually, it's about looking more closely at the stories that it tells, and the version of love that it asks the viewers to believe in. One of the strongest ideas that the film promotes is love at first sight. Like throughout the film, love is immediate, it's instant. In Love Actually, people don't fall in love over time, they just recognise it right there and then. Jamie, played by Colin Firth, is the clearest example of that. After he gets cheated on by his wife, he flies off to France to pursue writing, and that's where he meets Aurelia. The film shows their connection as poetic. It's two people bonding beyond language.
Which is what? Turkish?
But when you're watching the film, you quickly notice that the only moment Jamie's attraction begins is when he sees her body. So his so-called love at first sight moment is clearly physical rather than emotional. But the audience are meant to follow this story and root for true love. The language barrier between them, it doesn't deepen the relationship, it just removes the need for real intimacy. Because without conversation, Aurelia's character just becomes a blank canvas. So by the time he proposes, which he does dramatically and in front of an entire village, and I will admit, I do find the premise of this scene visually striking and quite original. But as a viewer, you can't help but think, what does he actually know about her? And more importantly, what do the audience know about her? And that question keeps coming up throughout this film, by the way. Many of the relationships in Love Actually rely on desire and projection rather than genuine connection. People are treated less like individuals and more like ideas, rewards, and temptations. So because of that, love in this film, it isn't about mutual understanding or reciprocating emotional feelings. It's just about wanting someone and having that desire validated. The Prime Minister, played by Hugh, is often remembered as one of the most charming elements of the film. And yeah, he is great in this film, but looking at the actual character and the idea of romance here, it just collapses. He and Natalie exchange very few meaningful conversations. There's no shared emotional history, no genuine intimacy, just attraction. And the fact that she happens to have landed that job as staff at 10 Downing Street. Then he ends up effectively firing her from her position. He does that selfishly because he finds himself fancying her like unwantingly. So surely that moment should just permanently destabilise the romance there. But instead the film just brushes past it. And when he later seeks her out and then declares his feelings, the audience are expected to cheer for this love story. Because Natalie hasn't been given an inner life in this film. We don't know what she wants, what she values, or how she even feels about him. So when she does actually reciprocate, it doesn't feel like love, it just feels like it's forced for the narrative. So again, there's no real love shown here at all. It's clear to the viewer that they barely know each other, and I suppose that's the whole point. But the viewer is made to feel sorry for the Prime Minister on this quest for true love. But then what? You're supposed to cheer when he rushes straight into a relationship with someone that he has nothing in common with. Much like the strange portrayal of love with the Prime Minister's story, which had clear power dynamic imbalances, the most uncomfortable storyline has always been Harry and Karen. Harry, who's played by Alan Rickman, is drawn to Mia, a younger woman who works under him. And Mia is written as temptation, and then Harry's desire is framed as weakness. So again, obviously, it's impossible to see this one as love. It's far closer to lust. And then Carl and Sarah's storyline reinforces that same pattern also. Sarah stops having sex with Carl because her brother is in need of help and he's calling her phone. Carl pressures her not to answer the phone even though she's already explained that he needs help. Whilst this is an obvious portrayal of lust rather than so-called love, I think it's important to know how the film quietly positions Kyle as the one that we're meant to feel sorry for in a way, while Sarah's emotional labour fades into the background, and again desire is centred. So structurally, Love Actually just works against itself. There's simply too many stories and not enough time. With so many storylines competing for attention, the film relies on emotional shortcuts instead of actual character development. If the film wants these relationships to feel earned, then it needs more runtime to develop the stories. Because actually, when the film does slow down, that's where it succeeds. The relationship between with Daniel and his stepson Sam is the most emotional, convincing arc in the film. Sam is played by a young Thomas Brodie-Sangster, and while he's pretty unrealistically wise for a child, the emotional journey feels a lot more genuine. Daniel, who's played by Liam Neeson, he begins emotionally distant. He gets called by his first name by his stepson Sam, and over time we watch their relationship blossom. They grow closer and they share genuine moments and memories. So then when Sam actually does call him dad in the end, it works because we've actually seen that change happen throughout the film. At its core, Love Actually has a generous idea and a good message. Christmas is better when shared with the people you love, but in the Love Actually world, love isn't slow or built over time with actual connection. Instead, it just relies on emotional shortcuts, on desire mainly. But maybe that's why the film does feel so comforting. Not because it shows us love as it really is and what it should be, but because it shows love as what people want it to be. It's immediate and it's totally uncomplicated, especially at a time like Christmas.